Hello and welcome to Grizzly's video adjusting front and rear drums on the G1066R and G1079R Drum Sanders. This is one in a series of how-to videos that we're producing, making it easier for our customers to upgrade and maintain their Grizzly equipment. My name is Kent and this is Shaun, an engineer here at Grizzly.
Hi.
Together we'll show you step by step how to adjust the drum heights on your G1066R or G1079R Drum Sander to maximize performance. We will be using the G1066R Drum Sander, but the method is the same for both models. This video is designed to give an overview of the adjustment and to help you visualize the process. It should be used in conjunction with the instructions that came with your sander. We recommend you watch this entire video and read these instructions thoroughly before beginning this job. You can also call our technical support at 570-546-9663 if you need further assistance. But most important, follow all shop safety procedures. And remember, there are no more important safety devices than these. The tools needed to complete this job are a 14mm socket wrench, a 4mm hex wrench, a small hammer, and a small dowel or similar piece of wood. First, disconnect the sander from the power source and then open or remove the top cover. To function properly, the sanding drums must be aligned in two directions. The first is perpendicular to the feed direction and the second is parallel to the surface of the conveyor belt. To adjust the drums perpendicular to the feed direction, measure the distance between the nearest outside edge of the drum and the inside of the nearest brace. The distance should be within 1/8 of an inch of each other on both sides. If they are not within 1/8 of an inch, the sandpaper can creep toward one end of the drum and tear. The ends of the drums are held in place by bearing blocks that can be adjusted forward or backward via slotted holes. Before making any adjustments, look at both sides to see how much room each side has for adjustment. If possible, always make adjustments on the side opposite the drive belts. If you have to adjust the drive belt side, you will need to detension them first or the bearing block will be pulled inward when the nuts are loosened. After you have determined which block you are going to adjust, loosen the two lock nuts that hold it in place. You only need to loosen them enough so the block can be moved. Now, gently tap on the end of the block in the direction it needs to move. Stop and remeasure and continue to adjust as needed until you're within 1/8 of an inch or less of being parallel with the brace. When you are finished, tighten the lock nuts. Be careful not to over-tighten them as the cast iron bearing block material can crack or break if over-tightened. Now check the other drum and adjust it the same way if needed. For parallel adjustment, you will need two boards of uniform thickness to use as a gauge. An easy way to make this is to cut a 24-inch long by 2-inch wide strip of good quality plywood and then cut it in half so you have two identical pieces. Start with the rear drum. Slide the boards under the drum on either side of the conveyor and raise the table until they just come in contact with the drum. Now rock the drum back and forth with your hand and check if both sides are in contact by listening for the sound of the sandpaper lightly dragging against the wood. If you want, you can remove the drive belts to allow for the drum to be spun by hand, making it easier to hear the dragging sound. Both boards should be in light contact with the drum and have a similar sound. If they do not, you will need to adjust one side up or down to match the other side using the set screws in each of the four corners of the bearing block. As mentioned before, if you have to adjust on the drive belt side, you will need to detension the belts first or the bearing block will be pulled inward when the nuts are loosened. To adjust the height, loosen the lock nuts and then adjust all four set screws the same amount. An easy way to gauge this is by using the flat sides of the hex wrench as an indicator for each 1/6 of a turn. It's better to make small adjustments and then recheck the drum. Remember to snug the lock nuts after each set screw adjustment. Some trial and error will be necessary until you get this adjustment just right. Once you're satisfied with the rear drum, move on to the front drum. Adjusting the front drum is done the same way as the rear, but you will want to raise the table slightly so it is set just a wee bit higher than the rear. Otherwise, the rear drum will not sand the workpiece because the front will have already sanded to the same height. The actual height difference will vary depending on the wood type, the width of the board, the feed rate, and the grit of the sandpaper. Remember, take your time. A little extra time doing setup will save you a lot of time and headaches later on. When you're finished, make a few test passes with scrap lumber. If everything checks out, you're done. Now let's make some sawdust.